So you're looking to buy an E92 M3, but you're curious about the maintenance cost before you buy one. Maybe you're looking at an E90 or an E93. Regardless, they all share the same S65 V8 engine, which is a major reason why a lot of people want this car, strictly for the sound and the engine itself. You've seen countless posts on the forums and Facebook groups about the notorious rod bearing failure. Unfortunately, it is true. BMW made an engine with a pretty bad failing point, which happens to be the rod bearings. It's actually not that big of a deal and can be 100% prevented if replaced early enough. If you've ever followed a performance or maintenance shop on Instagram, you'll probably see that they perform rod bearing replacements at least a couple times per week. This is a standard procedure that's done at my personal shop that I go to, owned by my great friend Mike at Precision Dynamics. His shop is located here in Costa Mesa, California. Mike has a long-term background in modifying and fixing cars. He's been the only person to touch my cars over the last 4 years or so, just because he's been nice enough to not only do the work on my BMWs, but he's shared some of the most dense and detailed knowledge on how to work on these cars properly. If you've ever seen one of my maintenance videos on my BMWs, you'll see that he articulates and explains things in a way for anybody to understand. When you step into the E90X platform, you should be prepared to educate yourself. I'd say the biggest key word here is preventative. Preventative maintenance can save you thousands of dollars on parts and labor in the future. After owning 2 BMW M3s over the last 4 years, I've thankfully had only one issue pop up on my car. Other than that, everything I've done was to prevent anything else from happening down the line. Unfortunately, it was my throttle actuators on my E92. In this video, I'll be sharing with you a full list of what you should expect to do on your M3 to make sure it runs 100%, along with how much each one of those things will cost. Hopefully this helps you understand how much you should set aside and how much to prepare to spend on maintaining your V8 M3. Now, to be honest with you guys, I'm reading off a script that I wrote, and it may sound a little bit robotic, but this video is going to go over all the cost and all the things that I want to share with you that I've gone through to give you a better idea of what you should expect when you go to buy an M3, because you never know when you buy a car what really goes into it until you go through it. And like I said before, this is actually my second M3 over the last couple years, and I feel like I could hopefully offer you guys some solid advice and information just so you don't get too scared before you buy a car, but you understand that you will have to put some money aside and be ready. But I think the key word, like I said, is preventative. Please feel free to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share if you gain any knowledge or entertainment from this video. I'd appreciate it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. If you've heard about the rod bearing issue, you may not understand how it works. In this clip right here, Mike at Precision Dynamics is going to go ahead and explain everything you need to know about rod bearings within a nutshell, under 2 minutes.
So rod bearing is essentially literally exactly what it is. It's an actual bearing. The design of it is to allow a metal-on-metal surface. There's oil channels inside your crankshaft right there. See that hole? That's an oil channel. So every time you rotate the motor, it picks up oil, goes through that little channel. It lubricates the bearing right here. So it's no longer just metal on metal. There's always lubrication. This is designed to wear down over time because it is metal on metal, but you have a light, thin layer of oil to lubricate it. How it works is there's a crankshaft. They are offset where the connecting rods go onto. So every time the motor rotates, it's going to either push the pistons up or pull it back down. So while it's revolving and spinning around, it's going to constantly move the connecting rod. The connecting rod is going to be in one position at all times, right? It's literally going to be going up and down, just like this. Up, down, but the crankshaft will be spinning around inside of it. That's why you need bearings in there. If not, it would be metal on metal, or damaged stuff.
So now that you understand a little bit more about rod bearings, the pricing usually sits between $2,500 to $3,000 here in California. Sometimes it can be a little bit less depending on what you do to the car, but I've actually heard a couple rumors that it can go all the way up to $5,000 on the East Coast or Midwest, only because there's not as many performance shops out there and they can charge a premium for it. Usually rod bearings will include motor mounts, rod bolts, plus all the oil, and as well as the filter and oil pan gasket. So moving on to the next thing that a lot of people get a little bit worried about, or they hear a lot of rumors about, would be the throttle actuators. Throttle actuators are probably the second biggest failure with these V8 M3s. When they go out, thankfully they don't cause any kind of catastrophic failure, but they definitely let you know. Usually you'll go straight into limp mode and your car can't go over a few thousand RPMs. This helps protect the motor from any kind of damage or further issues. You actually have 2 actuators that sit underneath your plenum, one on the left bank and one on the right bank. Mike can explain it in detail and show you what they look like when they're taken apart right here in this clip.
With the throttle actuators, how it works is it's basically just a mechanical item that's also electric. So it's mechanical and electric. So this is the old original one, and what it is it actually has this little pivot arm. It just literally goes up and down. And the way that it works is when you actually apply load with your throttle, it controls it electronically, and then mechanically it pulls this up or down, which I will show you inside of here. There's a rod right here that's connected to this, and this, when you actually pull it downwards, opens your throttle. Technically individual throttle body. It's going to allow how much air to go inside the engine. By controlling the amount of air flowing inside, that controls your RPM and as well as how high the engine revs up. So the gears themselves are actually plastic, both gears. This is the only one that's actually metal. The failure is usually either right here or this other side of it that's controlled. So you can see when I spin it on the other end on the specific one.
Is right there.
Yeah, because it's constantly moving in, you know, gears, and it's grinding on each other. I'll pull this one out completely. Okay. So you can actually physically see. So even right here at this edge, you can see that worn down right here. This is actually the mechanical that's electronically controlled, the actuator. So it spins right here, but sometimes this motor wears down. They don't sell just this motor. Either this fails, these fail, which is, you know, this is what people mainly replace, as well as this. Sometimes the board itself can fail.
Pricing for throttle actuators sit around $1,700. Labor is definitely intensive since you have to take off the plenum and remove a handful of things between the engine block. But once it's done, you have the best peace of mind that you can imagine. That sounded kind of cheesy, but you know what I'm saying. Going on to the next thing would be the idle control valve. If you ever go up to a stoplight and you have a rough idle, you'll realize that something's probably wrong. The valve regulates the idle speed on the S65 engine. When it fails, it can have your engine running rough at idle, surging and erratic RPM fluctuations. This can cause a check engine fault code as well as put your car into limp mode. If your idle control valve has failed and is showing these symptoms, a new idle control valve should have your S65 running extremely smooth and much better at an idle with no fluctuations. Unfortunately, I do not have any video of this on myself, but you can see here that these are some photos that I found that will make you understand a little bit more about how these look and how they operate. Pricing for idle control valve will sit just around $1,000. Moving on to the next valve that goes wrong, which is the fuel breather valve. This is one that I had experienced myself where when I would fill up my car all the way at a fuel pump, my car would have really, really bad idle and sometimes would even shut off all the way. Your gas tank has to be able to breathe, and in order to breathe, your tank must have vent somewhere that will relieve both vacuum and pressure. Gasoline expands in volume as it warms up and shrinks in volume as it cools down. In this clip here, you'll see Mike go ahead and open up a fuel breather valve and explain to you the details on how it works and how it operates.
Now how it works is it's literally just an electronic valve. All it does is actuates it to open and close it. The design of this is very simple. It's going to allow it to open, supply vacuum to your fuel tank, just in case of like evap. This over time does wear down, just like any other electronics, because this is electronic and mechanical at the same time. Eventually they get stuck opened. They never fail closed, ever. Any actuators always fail open. You got this end of this hose, which goes to the vacuum pump on the back, right here. This allows it to supply vacuum, but this also connects to your intake plenum or actuators. If it gets stuck opened, it's going to suck in air through the backside of the charcoal canister, but that's going to give your car a lean condition, because any type of leak after your MAP sensor, which is on the intake, it's going to be unmetered air. Any unmetered air on any car with MAP sensors will automatically think that it's lean. And when it goes lean, it causes idle issues because it's trying to compensate for it, but it can't compensate because after the sensor, so it can't measure that. So there's this little gasket right here that pushes it in and up and down.
And
See that?
that's what wore out?
There's very little movement, but that's all it takes. So it'll pull it out, opens it, lets go, closes it. That's how it seals it. But you can see that there's a lot of buildup, carbon buildup, passing through. And this can cause an issue. I told you about the magnetic coil. It takes the energy and actually has coils in that side of here, and that's going to cause a magnetic field to pull it up and down. So there's actually wires, copper wires inside of here. And the test is to smell it. Well, usually when electronics fail, it smells like burnt wires. You know that smell? Yeah.
The fuel breather valve is thankfully much cheaper and is very easy to replace. Usually this costs around $300, and actually you can do it yourself too. I've had a lot of people message me saying, hey, I saw your video, I did it myself, it was very easy, thank you very much. So this is not that big of a deal, but if you do have bad idle when you fill up, a fuel breather valve will help you tremendously. Moving on to the coil packs. If you're not familiar with what these are, a coil pack, simply put, is an electronically coiled pack of ignition coils controlled by the car's computer. Its main responsibility is to build up the energy and then release the voltage through the spark plug cables so it can reach the spark plugs, and that's how the combustion process starts. You'll see here in this clip right here of Mike showing the coil packs and talking about them and replacing them.
Alright, so how a coil works is it's an electrical component. There's a board inside of here. Back then you used to have a distribution box, not anymore, as well as spark plug wires. This is all built together. Now how it works is it takes the voltage, which is a 12 volt. I'm going to say it's probably a 20 amp. Once it takes that signal, it amplifies it inside of here with a bunch of wind up coils, hence why it's called coil. So it transfers that energy straight through inside of here, which connects to a spark plug, and that's going to allow that electricity to flow through. A spark plug has a little bit of a gap. Every spark plug needs a little bit of a gap, a specific amount for every car to be exact, based on compression. And then once it actually takes that energy, it has to go from one end of that spark plug and it has to jump to the opposing side. And with that spark, it's going to ignite the fuel that's inside your cylinder.
A full replacement for all 8 coil packs would be around the $1,300 range. This would be a genuine OEM ignition coil replacement from the factory, not aftermarket or third-party coil packs. This tends to be a little bit more expensive due to sticking behind the idea of going with high-quality parts, especially with something like a coil pack that has so much responsibility of making an engine run properly. Moving on to the spark plugs. This is something that a lot of people tend to skip over, which is not a good idea. I highly recommend doing your spark plugs. A spark plug has 2 primary functions, which is to ignite the air-to-fuel mixture. Electrical energy is transmitted through the spark plug. The electrical spark ignites the gasoline air mixture in the combustion chamber. Changing the spark plugs is a way of assuring top efficiency and performance. Less voltage is required in the ignition system because of the efficiency of the new spark plugs. An old or misfiring spark plug can result in too much gasoline entering into the exhaust system. This can affect the car's performance and the emissions, hence why these are always recommended to be replaced. Precision Dynamics uses NGK spark plugs, which cost around $250 for the full set. Looking at the average cost of labor, you're going to be looking at $400 for a full replacement of your spark plugs. You'll notice a huge difference in your miles per gallon and driving experience once you have a fresh set of spark plugs in your car. This is something I did on my car recently, and it was a huge game changer. I highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't done it yet because it makes a big difference, especially if you're doing rod bearings. Do them at the same time. To finish everything off, you really want to look at all your fluids. This is something a lot of people skip over, or it's very overlooked in a vehicle's maintenance regimen. When your fluid gets old, the pH levels can change, which can damage engine parts, gaskets, and seals. You want to avoid allowing your engine to rot from the inside out, so having your fluids flushed and replaced often is a great way to prevent any issues in the future. This would include brake fluid, power steering fluid, and also if you have a DCT transmission, there's a DCT fluid along with the transpan. I had an issue a while ago where my car was whining and it sounded kind of strange, and I realized that my power steering fluid was not only low, but it was also old. So when I replaced that, the whining sound went away. All around, for all the fluids, you're looking at about an average of $300 to replace them. I recently had Precision Dynamics run a full invoice for me of everything included that I just spoke about in this video. The average price came out to about $8,000 to $9,000 depending on what parts you go with and how much the labor cost is. Like I said earlier in this video, labor costs can average everywhere because of the location of the shop. If you look around Southern California, you notice there's a lot of car shops all over the place. But if you're somewhere on the Midwest or East Coast, it's much harder to find a shop that's not only a reasonable price, but also have the trustworthiness of working on your car. One of the things to keep in mind too is that cheaper is not always better. It's always worth paying a little bit more to the right shop to get things done the right way. Cutting corners on these cars will only cause issues for you in the future. Keep in mind that there's also a couple other things that fall into play depending on what car you have, what year your car is, your previous ownership, and how that person drove the car, or how you drive your car. One thing that I recommend is that you always wait for your car to properly warm up before you drive fast. I typically wait at least until my car's up to temp to go over 4,000 RPMs, and I make sure that everything is good to go. I always double check all my fluids and also check my tires just to be safe. There could be a couple other things to factor in, like your tires or like some other maintenance things. So I'm hoping that this style of video gave you guys a new perspective on the maintenance cost for these cars. I can make a bunch of other videos in the future talking about everything in much more detail. This is just a basic video going over the maintenance on these cars. So if you're looking to buy a car, or you already have one, or you just bought one, this is kind of this could be the foundational layout of what you should expect to pay for down the line. Now, you don't have to do this stuff. I did everything out of preventative maintenance to make sure it didn't happen in the future, but you will have those times where you're driving down the road and something breaks and you have to go pay for it. This is kind of the average price for everything, and I think that this should help you understand more of what you are going to get yourself into financially. So at the end of the day, you're looking at about $8,000 to, I'd say, $9,000 in maintenance in order to get these cars to run absolutely perfect. I have done all these things here on the list. Everything will be in the description box below. And like I said before, I hope this brought you value because I enjoy doing these videos, and thankfully I'm somewhat educated with these, and more so with Mike at Precision Dynamics. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Spencer Berke, or go ahead and check out at Precision Dynamics on Instagram to find out more about what they do. So thank you guys so much for watching. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button if you can, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.